flat tax, but yeah, that intrigues me. I think right now, though, in Washington, I want to focus on the art of the possible. And there are things that are possible right now to try to give us at least some predictability, to try to bring, some predictability to the policy. The other thing that we need to do in terms of infusion of cash that will be job creative, that will be focusing on job creation, is I think that we ought to look at the $1 trillion that are overseas and bring it back through repatriation. Repatriation is essentially for a closed period of time at a lower rate than the existing 35%. You bring it back, it's taxed at a lower rate, so there's money into the treasury, and I would designate that to paying down the debt. And the rest, guess what? Companies can reinvest in their own businesses with their own capital. I mean, Jeff, I don't know how many people called us over the last month, but Jeffrey Limmel, who advises CEO of GE, and he advises the president on job creation. What has he done since he has been CEO? He has cut American jobs and he's created jobs overseas. Now he's doing that because it's benefiting his stockholders. We are anti-competitive here in terms of our rates. But this is the person that is advising the president. And when you look at the actions and how he manages that company, it begs to wonder, why, A, is this person giving the president advice? And secondly, isn't this the exact thing that we want to stop? I mean, I hear it from Republicans and Democrats. Democrats say to me all the time, why can't we stop sending those jobs overseas? And I said, send that letter to them.
But I recall, you didn't get any U.S. taxes.
No, and because they use the tax code in order to do it. And that's what needs to be cleaned up. And on the corporate side, that can be cleaned up. There is general consensus on about 90% between Republicans and Democrats right now in the House. And this is good news. And we're getting people in Congress to actually understand and appreciate that when you have less regulation, when you have less taxation, and you have a fairer system, it can generate a growth economy. Our economy is not, the growth right now is anemic, to say at best. We really need about 4-5% quarterly growth. We're under, actually the numbers got revised. You think about it, it's always revised on Friday from the quarter before. I think one quarter got revised from 1.9% growth down to, I think it was under a point. I mean, that's important news that was being disseminated by the White House on Friday. So when we start seeing 4 or 5% growth, that's when you'll start to see that unemployment number come down. As a matter of fact, last month, we did not have enough job growth to keep up with population growth in this country. We're still stagnant. So I would argue the policies that have been put in place for the last 2.5 years aren't working. Let's try something different. I noticed that, I leave it at that. I think you've we've given the president an opportunity to try. His recipe or his solution has not worked. And I think most people would agree with that. Let's try something different.
Congressman, could you, before they
Yes.
carry on
Yes.
this call, take this question?
Yes, I apologize.
Is this being, I had more than one question. I had some suggestions a while back. You said to us, what would we like you to do? What I'd like you to, not just you, the Congress to do. This country developed a thorium salt reactor back in the 1950s. It was not a breeder reactor, so it was decommissioned. That's the beauty of it. Not only can it burn up the nuclear fuel that can be weaponized and has been weaponized and get rid of that eventually in 50 years or so, it also cannot produce a Chernobyl or a 3 Mile Island or what is going on in Japan as a result of an earthquake. Those things can't happen. It's self-regulating. That's something that we provide cheap energy, safe energy, and a couple of other things, like Medicare and all of that. We pay twice, everybody knows this, we pay twice as much as the other developed nations. Yet, I remember back in the 1990s when there was a global assessment of healthcare, we were 18th on the list. And in the just about 5 or 6 years ago, again, we were 29th. while the costs are going up, quality is not keeping up with that at all. And currently, the people that have to subscribe to the Medicare and Medicaid, their costs are going up. And my question is, actually, I don't have a question for it. My response is, historically, the country's economy has done well. The middle class has been given a tax break because the money stays in the country and stimulates the economy without the government taking our money and giving it away. And then what the banks did with that was an atrocity. We all understand that. And the small business, when they have been oppressed by the global nationals, where they are rendered uncompetitive. If the deregulation was more in favor of the small businessman, again, this country would be keeping its money at home and not borrowing from our philosophical enemies.
There's two things I want to talk about. The small business owner, I've asked, when you come in contact with a small business owner who's got a business that's 10 years or older, ask them if they were going to start that business today in this environment, if they would. Most times the answer is no.
Let me answer that for you, Matt.
You wouldn't, right? I mean, it's a very simple way of describing a very complex problem. If you have job creators that choose not to create jobs today because of the environment, because of the financial, the economic environment, the regulatory environment we're in, we've got a competitiveness problem. When you look at the number of IPOs that have been filed this year on the New York Stock Exchange, it's on the decline. They're really going overseas. That's a problem. Think about, I don't know, a company named Apple that started with one employee. Companies like that, they capitalize, they get to an IPO, they create wealth for a number of people, but more importantly, they create jobs for thousands of people.
Can I interject a little?
Sure.
I've always contended that companies like Apple and Microsoft could never exist and evolve in a country like France. Where everything is socialist and everything is kind of squeeze the life out of them, and they would never have a chance to get out of the I think it could evolve and look what they've contributed to this country.
And I think what they're doing is they're finding markets other than, companies like that are finding stock markets to establish their IPOs in, instead of here in America. And the problem with that